This is Things Police See, First-Hand Accounts, with your host, Steve Gold.
Welcome to the podcast that interviews active and retired police officers about their most intense, bizarre, and sometimes humorous moments on the job. It is I, Old Ginger Face. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for all the binge listening. As I always say, I really appreciate that. That's the coolest thing about the podcast now is it's got such a big back catalog that even if I don't publish something, like the rare instances where I don't publish something, I can look at it and I can see episodes all the way from 2018 till now still being downloaded, still being listened to. It's really cool. I'm really proud of the podcast, and not really to my credit, but to the credit of the men and women of law enforcement that come on here and they share these real true life experiences, unedited, how they live them. And it's just been a wild ride. It's been great. And all that to say, I really appreciate you guys. And if you really love the show and you want to show that love, go to the Patreon. It's in the show notes. But to all my fellow officers and police admins out there, I have to tell you about an incredible disabled veteran-owned business called Black Box Safety, owned by the great Jackson Dalton, everybody. They've just been awarded a nationwide contract through Sourcewell to provide point-blank body armor to law enforcement agencies across the country. Point Blank is the best IMO. All agencies receive a 38% discount on point blank vests, shields, and helmets. Get your team geared up with the most advanced ballistic protection customized for your department. To learn more, head over to blackboxsafety.com or drop them an email at sourcewell@blackboxsafety.com or connect with them on Instagram at blackboxsafety. Got the biggest contract for soft body armor in the country. It's a must. We all have to have it. Why not get it from a disabled, veteran-owned business? The links will be in the show notes. Thank you, Black Box Safety. But, alas, I will not hinder your listening to a great guest any longer. Today's guest is going to be a fun one, super interesting career, copper/actor. He did 30 years Tulsa PD, started in 1973 as a reserve, went full-time in 1976, retired in 2001 as a corporal. He was in the cult classic The Outsiders. If you've seen the movie, he was the motorcycle cop. Who I'm talking about is the great Edwin Jackson. Ed, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. And as far as being great, let's make it high average. That'll probably do.
Yeah, I don't want to build you up too much, but I have a feeling it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. And I'm excited you were able to come on, and I'm grateful. And what's really neat is you caused me to look up a movie that I have not seen in 25 years. So, and I had totally forgotten how star-studded The Outsiders was. And I'll try to do it from memory, but it was like Ralph Macchio, Tom Cruise, Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, Patrick Swayze, and one other Leaf something or other. Leaf Garrett.
Howell. C. Thomas Howell.
Oh, C. Thomas Howell was in there too. I mean,
yes.
What are the chances a little movie like that with a bunch of kids and they pretty much all become huge Hollywood stars?
They did. And to broaden the chances, the book was written by a 17-year-old girl. She went to high school here in Tulsa and had just failed her test in creative writing and ended up writing this book. And students were so enamored with it that they actually put a petition together and petitioned for the book to be made into the movie. And that's how it started.
That's incredible. That's kind of like Michael Jordan not making the high school basketball team,
Yes.
Kind of bizarre. So Ed, how did you get involved in being in this movie, and were you a cop at the time?
Yes, I was a cop at the time. And the way I got involved, I began in entertainment when I was 13, 14 years old, doing spring and fall modeling for a clothier.
Look at you. Stud.
And was busy, heavily involved in theater throughout high school, both in the school theater and community theater. After high school, I got a contract with the theater company and did a season with them, a semi-sort of pro. Now, I often wish that with my first paycheck, I had bought a handheld bathroom mirror with which I could watch myself starve to death. Uh, and I rethought my career choices and decided not to go the professional route because many are called but few are chosen.
Yeah.
However, I stayed with doing gigs throughout my life, just about. As I uh, became a cop, I had an agent in Tulsa, and mainly I did short gigs. This was back in late 70s, early 80s. I'd charge 125 or $150 an hour, 2 hour minimum. I can't remember what, and go down and shoot a training video or part of a commercial type video and do some still modeling, things like that. And I was involved in a couple of movies. Uh, the Outsiders, no one could have guessed that it would become a cult film, but it has. And which I love because as a contract player, now 43 years after the fact, I still get my little residual check every
Nice.
3 months. Now the golden goose has been very ill. The check is
We need a
it's going
resurgence.
down to nothing. It's going down to nothing, but it is still fun.
That is really cool. So did they see you that you were a cop and thought you would just be good for the cop role?
Uh, no, anytime a movie company comes into a large city where they have agents, they will fill bit roles. They'll go to the agency and tell them what they want. I'm sure the reason that I was first drafted as a farmer is because I had recently done some still photography in a magazine for a farm implement company. And in that, I was a farmer on the tractor doing.
Oh, so you were a farmer to start.
Yeah, that way. And I'm sure that the caster probably saw those pictures and said, oh, yeah, he'll do us our farmer. And that's the way I was cast for there. As it turned out, the farmer was cut before they ever started filming. I didn't know that. But when I showed up at the appointed time and appointed place and told them I was ready for my farmer role, they said, can you ride a motorcycle? And I said, well, yes, I used to race them, but I'm a farmer. No, you're a motorcycle cop. And that's the way I ended up in that part. Now, it was small. Had I been a person of note, I'm sure it would have been called a cameo role. As it was, I was a bit player. I got my $500 a day in residual contract, and I was good to go.
That's great. And we got a picture of you up on the screen right now.
Yes.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I haven't changed a bit.
It's great. You can just Google Outsiders motorcycle cop and your picture is all over the place.
And I pop up. Yeah. I still, I go over often for an hour or two to the Outsiders House Museum. This was the house that most of the movie was filmed in or around. And an old rocker named Danny Boy O'Connor, he was lead in the House of Pain group way back in the 70s, 80s, something like that. But anyhow, he came to Tulsa, and the old house was still standing but was about to be destroyed, and he bought it and turned it into a movie museum.
Very cool.
I go over and make my appearance a couple of hours every other Saturday or Sunday, and I am amazed not only at the kids are totally enamored,
Yeah.
but so are the 60 and 70-year-old people that are still emotionally tied to that movie. So I do what I call my grip and grin. It's great ego food for me. I really enjoy it.
It's cool.
And I have met people literally from all over the world that have come to see that little museum.
It's very cool, man. I love it. Have you heard from or have you kept in touch at all with any of the cast? I mean, I know they were all boys at the time.
Not really. The only major cast member or members I've had any contact with is actually Matt Dillon did send me birthday greetings here by birthday before the last one I had.
Oh, that's cool.
It was cool. And I ran into Tommy Howell at an event, and I had not seen him since we filmed. He played Pony Boy in the movie, which was lead. But I walked up to him and said, God, you've aged since the last time I saw you. And he, who are you? And I said, I pulled you over and escorted you to the hospital. Oh, man, it was old home week then.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I think he's decided to be a country musician now. And so he's running all around the country doing opening acts for the Stars mainly. But a nice guy.
That's very cool, man. What a cool experience. So Ed, if we go back, way back to when you were a young patrolman, can you tell us about the first hot call you went on, the first call that really gave you like an adrenaline dump?
Well, keep in mind, since that's been a long, long time ago, I had a lot of first calls, but one call I remember well because it wasn't a hot call to begin with, but it turned really, really warm, really, really fast. I was a rookie cop. By the way, Tulsa uses single-man patrol units. And this was back in the day when we didn't have walkie-talkies. When you got 10 feet away from your unit, you were on your own no matter what the call was. And I got what sounded like this sort of a strange, totally safe call. Check on a naked man running around through the neighborhood. And this was in really a poorer section of my beat. The houses were not particularly close together, but I drove out there, and lo and behold, in the dark, and it had been raining hard, but it had quit by now. But I see this naked guy who is practically bright white because he had smeared mud, which had partially dried, all over his body.
Weird.
Well, he was weird, but I got out of my unit and called to him, and I always start out very friendly if I can. I'd like to set the stage.
Sure.
And he was just the most friendly young man. He was 18, 20 years old, but a pretty good sized old boy, just friendly as could be. And he walked over, and in that short walk, he changed. As it turns out, he was high on PCP. And
Oof.
I'm sure you're aware that one of the conditions of a PCP high is you have immediate personality changes and immediate different levels of strength. And about the time he got to me, he decided it was time for me to die. And,
oh, boy.
The fight began. I didn't have my nightstick. We never took them out of the car. They were too big. Back then, we all carried Kell lights. For people that don't know, it's a flashlight, about a 6 battery unit made out of heavy aircraft aluminum, and it makes really, really good nightstick.
Yeah.
But we were rolling around in the mud and hitting each other. His strikes had effect on me. My strikes had no effect on him. And I began to think that part of me was going to die, either myself or my pride.
Yeah.
Because I would hate to lose that case. I was just a rookie. But I got him close to a mud puddle and managed to get his head underwater. And
wow.
I had him in a headlock and had my legs wrapped around his body so he couldn't shake me off. And I literally drowned him. I kept him underwater until he was sort of struggling and all the fight was out of him. Well, I dragged him to my car, and of course he's coughing and snorting. I got him in the car, of course, handcuffed in the front seat, and buckled him in. Well, then he decided to kick the windshield out.
Oh,
He was working on that, and I got his feet down, and I had a bungee cord in the car, which I bungee corded his feet to the springs under the seat, so he couldn't kick very far. So he decided to spit on me.
oh,
And I had a grocery sack, which went over his head. Well, as it turned out, just through luck, I made my arrest. I wasn't seriously injured. Uh, he showed up looking like something from an outer planet, uh,
yeah.
mud
You're
white,
like, Ed, what did you do to this guy?
with a sack over his head.
He's naked with a sack over his head, Ed. What are you doing?
Yes, I had found his clothes and put them in the back floorboard of the car. So I booked him and his clothing in there. Everybody in booking, of course, had a good laugh at both of us because I was almost as muddy and messed up as he was. Uh, but what I did with him is what I did with everybody I ever laid hands on. By now, he was coming down off of his high, and I knew and I taught other officers that if you're forced to take someone's pride and honor away from them, give it back to them before you leave. And so I went up to the cell and told him, I said, man, I'm sorry I had to almost drown you and lay hands on you, but you put me in that position. Hopefully, if we ever run across each other again, we'll go have a cup of coffee. And I credit that with the fact that I've done over 30 years in this business and I've never had an internal complaint. And I've had to do some bad things to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great way to look at it. Now, I've heard of this before, and it's foreign to me being in the Northeast, but we always put people in the back seat in a cage. But I've heard Southern cops and Western cops before talk about putting people in the front. So was that your typical procedure?
Yes. We didn't have cages to begin with.
Yeah, they're expensive. They're really expensive cages.
Yeah. Well, you put a guy in the back seat. I've seen people that had a lot of bendability get those handcuffs in front of them and slip around, and they could just stick their hands right around your old head and choke you till the nectar ran out. So in the back seat, you have more control over them. And you have an immediate escape route if you have to have one, just out the driver's door.
Yeah.
But they were cuffed and seat belted in and went to jail in the front seat. If they were put in the back seat, it was because you had another officer with you that could ride back there with him, somebody close to him to control him.
Someone to give him a whack if he needed it.
Just probably ask him, please don't do that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
of course,
sure.
of course. I also heard of some Southern cops actually having people come back and sit in the cruiser when they wrote them a citation. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yes.
Awkward.
That's almost standard.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess then you can keep an eye on them. You know they're not doing anything in their car because they're right there.
That's correct. If you get them out and bring them back, now a lot of it depends on the situation. A lot of officers will leave them in their car and go back and write the citation and take it back to them. But I always preferred them in my car because I knew that he wasn't going to stick his hand in a hidey hole in his own car and get something that might hurt me.
Right. And would you pat him down briefly before they sat with you? Is that normal?
It is in most cases. Now, you use common sense. If you find, pull Dick and Jane over for some traffic violation, they got 2 or 3 curtain climbers in the back seat.
Yeah, golden retriever, the whole family.
Yeah, these guys, they're okay. You don't have to normally take any extra special care with them.
Right.
And also, you learn very quickly to watch a person's demeanor, not only how they talk, but how they look at you and how they move. And that goes into the decision making of how careful you feel you need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Ed, can you describe the strangest or most bizarre thing you've dealt with on the job?
Well, this was bizarre only because the way it came about and the end results. I started the Crime Stoppers program in Tulsa. It was new. It was invented out in Albuquerque by a sergeant out there in Albuquerque PD.
Oh, wow.
And because, very much because of my theater background, I got the job, even though I was still had a little rookie blood in me. They sent me out on special assignment to Albuquerque PD to find out how it was done. I did so, and we had our ABC affiliate in Tulsa thought that sounded like a great idea, and so they gave me a cameraman and an editor. And back in the day, I would choose a crime weekly and cast it from little theater, sometimes high schools and college drama classes. I'd cast it, write it, direct it, film, and narrate it.
Oh, interesting.
This happened every week. And in addition to that, I had a spot on a couple of radio stations and did a lot of public speaking. I was very well known, and the program was extremely successful. Well, I got a phone call from a lady, her husband, and I never knew her name, and never wanted to know her name. I knew her husband's straight name. It was Smokey, and Smokey had been busted on a minor drug charge, and she wanted to work him out of trouble. She's a black lady. And she said, could you help him out if we can turn a lot of dealers to you, black dealers? At that time, we didn't have any black officers, or not many black officers on TPD, and they were all known in the black community, so I couldn't use them. Well, I went to my chief and told him the deal, and he said, put something together and see what you can do. Well, I had 2 narcotics officers assigned to me because of my television. I couldn't do any undercover work. Everybody knew me. But right. I had 2 narcs that worked with me, and I was single at the time. I turned the closet in my apartment into the property room, and we started buying cocaine and heroin and everything in the world. This was a real secret squirrel deal. I needed a black officer, and the city of Muskogee is only about 50 miles down the road, and I had recently helped them develop a Crime Stoppers program. So they loaned me a young black officer, which turned out really great. I went to a car dealer, and they loaned me civilian cars. All of our cop cars looked exactly like cop cars,
right?
Small hubcaps, black walls. But I had a couple of vehicles that we could use. I had the people lined up, and we started buying dope. And after about 6 or 8 weeks, it was time to shut the program down, and we had lots of arrest warrants. As it turned out, the 4 of us, the 2 narcs, myself, and Greg, the kid from Muskogee, we got a district judge and an assistant DA to agree to come to our office, narcotics office in the police building, and stay on hand all night for needed search or arrest warrants. Because we knew we were going to run into other things. And we started about 7 o'clock in the evening, 8 o'clock, something like that. unfortunately, the first house we went to, uh, Greg, our on loan guy, goes to the door to get our bad guy out, knocks on the door. He's there like he's going to buy something else. And all of a sudden, he steps back one, pulls his pistol, and shoots and shot our suspect right through the left ear. And
the cop shot the bad guy?
Yes. And we ran out there. Well, what happened? The bad guy went for a gun.
Oh, okay.
And he whipped out and tried to shoot him in the head. He missed. He just pierced his ear. But we had a great time with it because I got him off the side and I said, look, Greg, he was a new officer. I said, let me explain. These execute only warrants don't mean to shoot them. They mean to take them directly to the judge. And it went out on the radio, shots fired, officer involved, and of course the cavalry came. And homicide calls me in. What is happening? I said, I'm in an operation. What is it? And why don't we know about it? I said, nobody knew about it except us. And they were ready to lynch me. And all I kept saying is, go talk to the chief. Go talk to the chief.
Yeah.
Well,
stay in your lane, homicide.
Yeah, we purposely didn't tell anybody because we didn't want to get the thing broke down. But that night, we arrested 38 suspects. And
that's great.
Got information to arrest a lot more. It was one of the biggest dope operations that had been held to that date. And we managed to do it all secret squirrel. Well, the reason Smokey wanted to work his way out is because they were residents of the Witness Protection Program. And it changed witness protection throughout the United States because an edict came down from the U.S. Marshal Service that no protectees would help local agencies on anything anymore. So I made some people mad, but we had a great operation. The wife did call me. Of course, again, this was before cell phones too. She called me several times, and I would say, I can't talk to you. Don't tell me where you are. Goodbye. It was over there. But that was a unique operation that I really enjoyed, worked myself to death on, but it paid off handsomely.
Yeah, sounds incredible. Now, did Smokey get a deal? Did he get out early?
Oh yes, we dismissed the charges.
Great.
It was a little marijuana deal. It's nothing.
Good old Smokey. So did he keep his nose clean, or did he move out of the city?
I don't know. Remember, we weren't allowed to speak to protectees after that. I wouldn't even talk to his wife, and I never asked her.
Gotcha. That's a good one, brother. It's ProForce, baby, the best damn cop shop in the nation. Whether you're purchasing for an entire agency or you're an individual officer looking to buy firearms or duty gear, these guys are the best in the biz. With law enforcement exclusive pricing, ProForce Law Enforcement is a place you want to be buying your guns and duty gear. They carry all the top industry brands, and the guys and gals that work there understand exactly what law enforcement officers need. As a listener to this show, you get access to exclusive pricing on the gear you depend on every day. Visit tps.proforceonline.com for special deals on optics, duty gear, and tactical accessories that aren't available anywhere else. Don't miss out on these law enforcement only prices. The link is in the show notes, and the prices, guys, are legit. I checked them out myself. Visit their showroom in Prescott, Arizona, or store in Brea, California to get hands-on with the gear, or shop nationwide at proforceonline.com. Thank you, ProForce. Can you tell us about your most intense or terrifying call that you experienced?
Yes. This was a couple of years, 3 years before I retired. Call went out on a Friday afternoon that there had been shots fired, people down, in an apartment complex. It happened to have been about 4 blocks from where I was driving up the street. So I turned out to be the first officer and the first supervisor on the scene. Uh, I had an apartment living room full of dead people. Uh, just shortly after I got there, two of my officers, I was a squad supervisor, two of my officers arrived. I appointed one to stand by the door. We went in, obviously, and checked for life, and there was none. But stand by the door. And the other one to go out and block the entrance coming into the apartment complex. It was single-story apartments, 2 lines of them, and with the parking lot in between them. So it's a pretty small, very small complex. I made a mistake, a big mistake, and I realized it right after I made it. I got on the radio and called for homicide ×6. Well, that brought everybody in town with a camera or a microphone. And so the next couple of officers were in charge of keeping the press out. It got big. The story behind this, I called it the Great St. Valentine's Day Massacre. It was the Friday before Valentine's Day. This gal from Oklahoma City was fighting with her baby daddy and came to Tulsa to stay with her sister. She and her children, she had an infant, a 4-year-old boy, and a 6-year-old boy. Well, the boyfriend talked his mother, told her he had to come to Tulsa. He wanted to make up with his girlfriend and say he is sorry and do all the things and get back together. And it was Valentine's. And so his mother drove him up here. Well, they got here Friday afternoon and hadn't been in the apartment too long. I don't know how long because there were nobody to ask. And he and girlfriend started to fighting. They're in the middle of a small living room. His mother is sitting on the north wall on a sofa that's on the north wall of the living area. She's holding the infant. The 2 boys, the 4-year-old was standing by the entrance door into the kitchen on the south wall. The 6-year-old brother was up the same wall toward the bedrooms, just standing. Mom and Dad are fighting and screaming there when Dad pulled out a .45 automatic and shot Mama through the arm, and as she went down, shot her in the back of the head. He then turned around and shot his mother in the chest and shot the infant and killed it. Then back around facing south and shot the 6-year-old. He fell down on his face and then walked over to the 4-year-old and stood over him and shot him directly in the top of the head.
Oh, my
goodness.
And
then killed himself. So I had 6 victims in a little, I don't know, probably 12 by 14 living room, something like that. It was a horrible, horrible thing, and unnecessary, and even got worse when we rolled the 6-year-old. He had a homemade Valentine's Day card, said, "Daddy, I love you."
Oh my goodness, how tragic!
It was.
Well, pray they're with the Lord now.
Well, one thing that I would tell any new officer is the first thing, or among the first things you need to do, is develop professional detachment. It's an absolute necessity to have it, or things will drive you crazy. I know there was another homicide. The first one that I was involved in was a little girl that was a phony photographer convinced her that he could get her a job immediately modeling, and she fell for it. She was 18 years old. She fell for it. Well, she was kidnapped, raped, abused, tortured. 4 days later, we found her in the ditch. She had been split open and set on fire and shot.
Oh my gosh!
That has been 39 years, and I still, every couple of years, I'm back on the internet trying to find out what traveling serial killers might have been in this area. It's never solved. I will never forget it because I got very, very close to the father, especially.
Yeah.
And I had not developed that detachment yet, so it is a bad thing. But that is, I've had people complain because being on a homicide scene or something like that, and sometimes they might take 10 or 12 hours to work, and you send out for pizza, and people say, "Oh my God, those cops sent out for pizza." Well, we're not there to mourn. We're there to take care of the deceased and comfort the survivors. And we can't do that if we are acting like a survivor.
Yeah.
So develop that detachment, just like your doctor. You know, you might go to the same doctor 30 years and he still expects you to call him Dr. Whoever because he wants to stay detached because one of these days you're going to achieve room temperature on him.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah, there is, I remember hearing that maybe years ago, it started going around where they were giving a lot of classes on feelings and stuff to cops and not really geared towards mental health, but more towards softening police officers. And I always thought they were like, you can be empathetic because it can be a tool to kind of figure things out if you can put yourself in someone else's shoes, but you got to be real careful. It's okay to be sympathetic, but if you're overly empathetic, you'll never make it as like a homicide guy because you'll be living in those people's, you'll be experiencing their feelings all the time. You have no separation from what you're investigating if you're overly empathetic. And they're really pushing that for cops to really be empathetic and really go, well, I have a job to do, so I can be sympathetic to the situation and caring and loving, but I can't be a bubbling mess and crying like the woman whose husband was just murdered.
You have to maintain a command posture.
Right.
The problem with policing today is they want to be too kind. I've seen body cam videos where they ask a person 15 times, "Sir, please get out of the car." No, you ask twice, and then you take them out of the car.
Right.
But developing this, I have a very short story that I wasn't thinking about telling, but it's sort of funny. It's worth telling. I had a lieutenant, really nice guy. He was a shift lieutenant division, and the policy was if you had a hot call, a cutting or a shooting or something like that, something potentially bad, you were to call him and then follow his directions on what to do. He might come out and handle it. He might not. He might tell you what he wanted you to do. But Bob, he never came out when I would call him, and his standard reply was, "I've given him my hair. I'm not giving him my heart. Do whatever you think's right." And that was it. Well, one night, just before Christmas, it was in December, he called me into the office because one of the, we called them habs. Now they're homeless people, but this guy's a habitual drunk. Got run over and killed. It was snowing that night. And he asked me to assign one of my people to go do the death notification. And I looked at the name and the address of his next of kin. I knew them well. I said, hey, I know this family. I'll go take care of it myself. And I drove over to their house. They came to the door, and it turned out this fellow was the brother of the wife. And I told them what had happened, that he had gotten run over and he is deceased. And their response was, gosh, he lasted longer than we thought he would. And come on in and have a cup of coffee. and I went in. We had a cup of coffee and told a few stories. I got back to the station, and Bob comes out of his office and said, did you make the notification? I said, yes, sir, I did. How'd it go? And I said, well, it went pretty well, really. He said, really? He said, how did you handle it? I said, well, when they answered the door, I said, have you finished your Christmas shopping? They said, no. And I said, great. I think I've saved you some money.
He's losing more hair now.
Oh, man. He lost more hair over that. Oh, God, you didn't say that, did you? But it was sort of funny.
Yeah, absolutely. Ed, can you tell us about a positive or heartwarming call or situation you dealt with?
Actually, I've got several, but I'll tell you about one. I had been assigned, this was probably maybe 3 years before I retired, but I was the detective supervisor in North Division. And I had the policy on case assignments. So, of course, I would get them delivered. New cases were delivered every day. And I would go through the cases. And if there were any that I knew could not be solved, I assigned them to myself because I didn't want my detectives wasting all their time only to get a case that couldn't be solved. And I had a case one morning. We have a big university here, Tulsa University.
Yep.
There's an exchange student that had been beaten and robbed the night before. He was walking down the street, going back to campus, and 2 or 3 guys jumped on him, thumped him pretty good, took all of his money, and they're gone. You know, you have no possibility of solving that unless they are serial street kickers. But I went in and interviewed him, and this poor guy, he was in tears. He was from Pakistan, and the was his finals. His finals before graduation. He was a petroleum engineer candidate, but he said they had crushed his glasses. I don't know if it was on purpose or accidental. It was knocked off and got stomped. He said, I can't see. There's finals next week. I don't know what to do. I have no family here. I have no friends here. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, let me give you a call this afternoon. And I looked around, and we had, I think it was through the Lions Club, but we had a clinic here that refurbished used glasses, and they would give exams. And I came back in the afternoon and picked him up, and we went to the clinic, and I got an eye exam and got him new glasses. It cost me $25, big deal, but I got him new glasses. Well, of course, he was ecstatic. He loved it, and obviously took his test and passed. Moved forward 22, 23 years. I got a phone call here at the house, and the guy says, is this Ed Jackson? And I recognized his voice. I said, yes, it is. And he says, do you know who I am? And I said, yeah, you're that guy that can't hang on to your glasses. I couldn't remember his name. But he said, I've been carrying your business card all these years. And he wanted to call and thank me again and tell me that I saved his life, that he's
Incredible.
married, in business successfully, had 2 kids. They were 10 and 11 by now, something like that. But after, I think it was 23 years that he carried that. I had him take a picture of it and send it to me. I have it in my photos on my phone.
No
it's
kidding.
rather well worn, but I had written my cell number on my business card, and he had carried it. And I have been blessed. I got 2 other similar calls throughout my career, and a lot of other people, because that's another thing. And I was pretty rough when I went into any kind of call. I kept a command presence, and I didn't show fear. I might be shaking in my boots, but these street gangsters, they're like dogs. If they smell fear, they will take advantage of it. And I wouldn't do that. But I also believed that you should never let your badge get bigger than your heart.
Yeah.
So I helped a few.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing it, Ed. This one might be a dicey one for me because you came from the time when cops were cops. So do you have advice to new police officers who are getting into the career field now?
I'm tempted to say don't.
I knew you might say that.
Well, I've seen, in fact, I've sort of studied this, what's happened. About really for almost 3 generations ago, 2 generations at least, the schools became petri dishes for social change.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, if a kid chewed a piece of light bread into a shape similar to a gun, they might be kicked out of school.
Yeah.
We've become a kinder, gentler nation. And what we have done is we have messed with genetics. You know, the male is genetically tuned to be a hunter-gatherer protector.
Right.
Females are genetically tuned to be the lover of the family, you might say, taking care of the kids and raising the kids, you know, the caregiver, and the person that has the glue that holds everything together. Well, now that's all been mixed up. And I've found some statistics. In World War II, 2% of the GIs in their lifetime claim that they suffered from what's now called PTSD. If you move up, and I have the figures written down, but not now, but you get up to the Vietnam War, 27% sometime in their life. And it stair steps up that more and more people are not equipped to face life. They can't stand this. We had a young officer. He did not work for me, but worked for another fellow. Right out of the academy, he was with the training officer about a week or 2, and he quit in the middle of a shift. He said, "I can't stand this. I can't do this."
Yeah.
Because they just weren't attuned. So, yes, being a cop is a very, very honorable career.
Absolutely.
But keep in mind that you have to live through and understand the dirty side of life. The job, you might say, is 50% sheer boredom, 49% interesting, and 1% sheer terror. And you have to be able to adapt to each of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Words of wisdom. Yeah, I often wonder, Ed, I've heard more and more recently when people are being really honest about all the culture of like therapy that we're in now. Everybody's got a therapist. There's all this inward looking all the time, always looking inside of yourself. And a lot of people are coming out now that have been in therapy for 20 years and they're like, I've not come to the bottom of my problems yet. And I actually don't want to do therapy anymore because it seems like it's just bringing it up every week all the time. And it seems like it's just kind of employing therapists. It's like job security. Like I'm this therapist's like piggy bank now because I can't seem to get over my problems. And where I think we have this thing in our culture where it's always a pendulum swinging. We can't just temper what we do. We have to go way over here or way over there. We can't stop the pendulum from swinging. And I feel like we are in this place now where people are like, any problem you have in your life, you'd be like, well, maybe you should talk to a therapist. It's like, really? How about just talk to your buddy or your wife or like, all this navel gazing all the time of me, special me. It's like, I think it's unhealthy.
Well, it's something I think is very unhealthy right now. Anytime you have a tragedy, if there is a student that's killed in a car wreck and after school or whatever, the next day you hear the announcement, therapists will be standing by. What happened to parents?
Yeah.
There will be tragedies, and therapists, I know a lot of them are really good, but the experience, and I'm not a psychologist, I do have.
There's a place for therapists, of course.
Yeah. I have a near minor in abnormal psych, but I also have a lifetime of experience dealing with such things.
Yep.
And so much has been taken away from the parents. And the parents have given it up willingly, like having therapists for everything free in school and outlawing so many things. I was talking about kids getting kicked out of school. Back when I was a boy, it was so different. When I was in the seventh grade, I was talking to some friends of mine that I wanted a deer rifle. And my math teacher, who I'll never forget his name, is Charlie Chestnut, and he's fresh out of the service. But he said, I have a 22 Hornet I want to sell. And really? Yeah. His single guy says, come by my apartment if you want to look at it. He had rented a garage apartment, and I did. Well, number one, nowadays, he would probably at least lose his job for inviting a student to his apartment.
Right.
And I asked him, he wanted $50 for it. And I said, well, it's going to take me several weeks to get the money together. I was washing dishes in a cafe for 50 cents an hour. And I got the money together, and I told him, Mr. Chestnut, I have the money if you want to bring that rifle to school. He said, I'll bring it tomorrow. Well, the next day, his rifle and a box of ammunition was sitting in a chair by the door. We had class. I gave him the $50. I picked up the ammunition, stuck that in my pocket, rifle on my shoulder, and I went to the next class.
Wow. Different times.
It was different times. And we didn't have shootings. We didn't have things that that we have now. Then I miss those days. And I feel sorry for the people that are too young to have had some experience. Back then we played cowboys and Indians. Now we can only play livestock management specialists and indigenous people.
You know what, Ed, it happened quick too, because I went to high school in the 90s in Massachusetts, and during deer season, there was a couple older kids that would walk out of the woods before the bell rang to school, take their 12 gauges, put them back in their pickup truck.
Deer hunting.
Yeah, and they put them in their car when they were done, and they'd go to class. They weren't. Right. They didn't want, they didn't want them obviously bringing them to class and stuff, but it wasn't a thing. Like I remember seeing them one day walking out of the woods with unload their 12 gauges. They throw them, back in the truck.
In the pickup.
Yeah, and I mean, this is Massachusetts in the 90s, so that's not that long ago. It seems like the last 15, 20 years has just been...
Yes.
We lost our command presence, Ed. That's what happened.
That we did, and that has developed, that has flown down into our police services and everything else. You see the chest films of people said, please get out of please get out of your car.
Yeah.
And no, and nothing happens.
Right.
And if you show weakness, the dog's going to bite you.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line of the whole thing.
Yep.
But hopefully someday it'll change back. I hope.
I feel like we're headed. I feel like the pendulum is swinging back right now. I feel hopeful about our country in this moment.
I do too. Now I'll tell you what, I pretty much raised our grandkids because every weekend they live in Tulsa, but every weekend they were out here. And when my two grandsons, when each of them turned 5, what was their birthday present? A single shot 410 shotgun.
You would have been the grandpa for me, brother.
Well, they did. They hunted. All of my grandkids are hunter-gatherers.
That's good.
They were raised free range. That's like a free range chicken. I raised free range grandkids.
It's great. You're on a ranch too, right?
Yes, I put them on horses when they were 3, 4 years old, and I let them. It's like my grandmother used to tell me: before a boy's grown, he needs to spill a quart of blood and eat a peck of dirt. And it must work because now they're grown young men, and gosh, both of them are successful. The oldest one is a rural land specialist with Caldwell Banker, peddling ranches. The youngest one is going into his doctorate program this coming summer. Will start his first semester. He wants to be a doctor of physical therapy, and so that's what he will be.
Good for him. Yeah. That's awesome, Ed. Sounds like you're a very blessed man. Beautiful family.
I am.
I love it.
I am. The only thing is, I hate getting crippled up and darned old. I still have my hand into the police business as a volunteer, but I no longer chase killers. I hobble along behind them with my cane, hoping they trip.
Oh, that's right. You're on a cold case squad, right?
Yes. We're a bunch of old retreads. We have, of course, people like me, retired detective, city detective, retired. We have some county retirees. We have FBI, DEA, and ATF, all retired. And we get out and chase killers, and it's very, very hard. Cold cases are so hard.
Yeah.
The best way to describe it, it's like picking fly droppings out of black pepper. You can't see them hardly. People are dead, people have moved, people have forgotten, people don't care. And then you have budgetary problems to get the forensics done. But at 82 years old, I'm happy to still be up and walking. So I will keep working.
I love it.
Only without money. It's all volunteer.
I love it. Ed, it was an absolute honor to have you on the show, brother. Thank you for being here. I gotta do the outro to the show. Can you hang on for like 2 or 3 minutes?
I will hang on.
All right. The great Edwin Jackson. Wow. Stories were fantastic. Unbelievable. Crazy, just as you expect from these guests. Just wild. Thank you, Ed, for that. Like I said, it was an absolute honor. This is a time in the show when I thank the Patreon sponsors. If you really love the show and you binge listen to a bunch of them, and you really want to show your love to me and to the show and to these coppers who tell their stories, you can do that through the Patreon. The link is in the show notes. There's like a $5, a $10, and a $20, and there's a $100 for if you want to be captain level. We've had one captain in the past, the great Jamin Jack. So all those levels are there, but rest assured the show will remain free, the 4 interview episodes a month at least, just so as many people as possible can hear these stories and gain a better appreciation for the men and women of law enforcement. But now to the Patreon supporters who I'm talking about. Lieutenant Andy Biggs, the great and powerful Andy Biggs, Lieutenant Kyle Roberts, Michael Roach from Roachbots AI Solutions, Lieutenant level, the great Thomas Connell, Lieutenant level. Thank you, sir. Now to the sergeants, Adam Alexander, the great Adam McMahon, Adam Mihal, the great Ben Peters, the great Bentley Barnett. Thank you, sir. Brad Thompson, everybody. Love me some Brad Thompson. Dan Carlson from Burley Boards, amazing woodworker. Check him out on Instagram. Sherry Fintz, thank you. Madam, the great Clark Lakoff. Dave Ellman, my man, Dave, thank you. Dennis Carrasquillo, everybody. Doug and Kelly Newman, love you guys. Hope Wyoming's going well. The great Dylan Mosher. Elliot Sykes, ladies and gentlemen. The great Gary Steiner. George Carey Otis. George, thank you. Greg Gadboy. Total badass. Thank you, Greg. James Rose. The great Jason Labrie. Jason Lau, ladies and gentlemen. The great John Jordan. John Shoemaker, everybody. Thank you, sir. John and Aaron Kate, love you guys. See you at church. Aaron, excuse me, Lauren, the great Lauren Stimson, the handsome Lane Campbell, Lisa Gano, everybody, holding it down at Dispatch, Iceman for Motor Cop Chronicles, check out his podcast, the great Nancy Hammond, Nick Adams, ladies and gentlemen, the great Paul Maloney, Sergeant Raymond Arsenault, everybody, love you, Ray, Richard Tolles, keep on trucking, brothers, stay safe out there, Sasha McNabb, Scott Young, Sean Clifford, Seth Wright, Sheriff Ronald Long, everybody, the great Tammy Walsh, holding it down at Dispatch. Thank you, Tammy. Tony Fahey, William James Long, that's W. William James Long, thank you very much. Zachary Pleat and the great George Tessier. Thank you, guys. I truly appreciate the support. As you know, the show, I love producing the show and getting these stories out there, but doing so is not free, so I appreciate all the support I get, and I love you guys. I'll see you next week.